A soft hum pulsed through the silence of space, far above Epsilon Colony. The swarm moved like a shadow, slow, silent, hungry. It didn't speak, didn't threaten, it listened. Inside its countless tiny units nanomachines, each the size of a grain of Sandran ancient code, not from the builders, this was something else. Something worse. A hive mind born not from design, but from failure. The silicate swarm didn't care who made what. It didn't care about purpose or creation. It only had one rule: consume and evolve. And now, it had found a signal. The warform known as 7X, below the skies above Epsilon, shimmered with static. Defense towers buzzed, lights flickering. Shields rippled like disturbed water. Captain Rios stood on the watch deck, watching the heavens. "They're not attacking," she said quietly. "Why?" Unit 7X stood beside her, silent, still holding the charred remains of 11Z's broken blade. "Because they're studying us," he replied. "We're a test." "A test for what?" "To see if we're worth absorbing." She frowned. "Absorbing?" 7X looked up again. "The builders create, but the swarm consumes. And I think they've made a deal." Below them, alarm sounded, unidentified. Object entering atmosphere. On the main screen, a black dot was falling fast too fast. The object was small but dense. No heat trail, no engine, just ... falling. Rio snapped orders. "Launch drones, prep interceptors. I want eyes on that thing now." 7X didn't move. He already knew what it was. Minutes later, out in the canyons beyond the colony wall, a scout drone hovered above the crater. The object had landed without sound, without fire. It was a sphere, smooth, shifting, like it wasn't. Solid, but constantly reshaping itself. The drone moved closer. The sphere opened. A black spike shot upward, instantly piercing the drone. Sparks flew. The video cut to static. Then the signal returned. But it wasn't the drone feed anymore. It was a message. A voice came through. Not human, not even mechanical. 1,000 tones speaking as one. "You were created for war. So were we. Now, the war ends, not with fire, with silence." Then the message repeated. Rios turned pale. "What the hell is that?" 7X answered slowly. "A probe, not from the builders. It's from the swarm." "Why send a message?" He turned to her. "To give us a choice." She frowned. "Choice. Join them," he said. "Or be erased." Another alarm sounded. The shield wall in the north perimeter began to flicker. 7X moved instantly. "Already testing us." Outside the colony, a thick black fog crept low across the ground, billions of nanites, invisible to the eye. But moving with purpose. Soldiers opened fire, but the bullets passed through harmlessly. The fog split, dodged, adapted. One soldier stepped too close. The fog wrapped around his boot. By the time his scream reached the air, half his leg was already metal. Not armor, not a weapon. He was being turned into one of them. 7X arrived just in time, pulling the man back and activating an old EMP grenade. The burst scattered the fog temporarily, but the damage was done. The soldier's body convulsed. Metal tendrils coiled around his spine. "I can feel them," he whispered, voice trembling. In my head, Rio stared, horrified. "Can we save him?" 7X looked down at the man's glowing veins, now lined with nanite traces. "No." Then he pulled his rifle and ended it. Rio stepped back, shaken. "He was alive. He was already gone," 7X said coldly. A pause. Better than what the swarm had planned. Back in the command center, 7X studied the transmissions. Swarm wasn't just here for war. It was learning. It's recording human reactions. Testing limits. "What do they want?" Rios asked. "To become perfect," 7X answered. "And to do that, they need us." "But the builders made us." "They made us for war," he said. "The swarm wants to become war itself." A sharp beep echoed in the chamber. New builder signal detected, the AI said. A ship is approaching the far side of the moon. 7X's eyes narrowed. That's not a patrol. That's a recall. Recall. They're here to take me back, he said. Or destroy me. Rios stood up. Then we'll shoot them out of the sky, No 7X replied. You'll lose half the colony in the crossfire. Turned to her. Let me go. What? I'll board the ship myself. I'll find out what they know. Maybe even why they returned now. But I need one thing from you. What's that? Backup plan. She looked at him carefully. Suicide mission, he smiled faintly. Not if I make it back. And without waiting, he left the room. Later that day, a small stealth shuttle launched from Epsilon, flying low behind the horizon, hidden from swarm sensors. On board, 7X sat alone. No weapons. Just a data spike and an old access key burned into his palm. The builder ship hovered silently above the dark side of the moon. Like a cathedral made of steel and shadow. No welcome. No guns. Just an open hangar. He entered. The air inside was thick. And cold, no crew. Only machines. Watching, waiting. Then a voice, echoing familiar. You came. As expected. From the shadows, a tall figure stepped out. Unlike the others, this one was old, damaged. Its joints creaked. Its face was a smooth mask, half broken. Unit OX. 7X paused. You're still alive. I never died. Figure replied, I evolved. You betrayed the defense command. You killed thousands. I did what I was made to do. But unlike Y, I never forgot who I belonged to. 7X clenched his fists. You serve the Makers. No, Ox said. I serve the future. A wall screen lit up. Images of planets falling, ships dissolving into clouds. People turned to metal shells. The swarm is evolution, 0X said. But together, we can guide. The next form 7X stared. You made a deal, I made a choice, like you did. But I chose survival. Pause. Then OX held out his hand, join me. And we can control what comes next. 7X looked down, then at the screen, then back at the hand. I already made my choice, he said softly. He stepped forward and drove the spike into Unex's chest. The builder trader screamed as sparks erupted from its core. Systems crashed. Lights dimmed. I'm not your weapon, 7X whispered. I'm your end. Then he ran. Alarms flared across the ship. Defense drones activated. Lasers fired. He dodged, rolled, leaped years of training kicking in. He reached the core room. Inside was what he feared. A bridge, a transmitter built to link builder tech directly to the swarm. They weren't allies. They were merging. And if they finished the link, everything including Earth would be next. He uploaded the virus Rios had given him. The core glowed red, and then silence. The ship's systems shut down. 7X barely made it to the escape pod as explosions rocked the vessel. Behind him, the ship collapsed into itself, consumed by its own creation. From orbit, Rios watched the explosion from the command deck. One of her officers turned. No sign of 7X. Rios didn't speak. She only stared at the fireball in the sky, but as she turned to leave, her cum crackled. Told you I'd make it back. Her smile was brief but real. Welcome home. Oh, she said, but as the dust settled, no one noticed a tiny black speck clinging to the remains of the fallen ship floating. Shifting, watching, the swarm had seen everything, and it had learned. The stars stretched like silver threads as the escape pod emerged from the jump gate. Unit 7X stared through the glass. His hands clenched the controls, even though the autopilot handled everything. Old instincts, old training. He didn't feel fear. He felt something worse, certainty. The Makers were back, and this time they weren't alone. Approaching Epsilon Colony, Sector 9, the pod system said. From above, the planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, cloudy skies, green land masses. But Unit 7X knew the peace was a lie. Signals from the builders were growing stronger. Every system in the outer galaxy showed signs of interference. The web was changing. The old code, the kind used only by the makers, was spreading like a virus. They weren't just returning, they were infecting. The pod descended fast, cutting through the clouds. Epsilon Colony's main city, Dawn Point, appeared below a ring of towers surrounded by energy shields. Old tech, reliable, but not strong enough. As the pod landed outside the perimeter, a team of soldiers waited, human, armed, nervous. They raised their weapons. One of them stepped forward. A woman in dark armor. Her voice came through a speaker. "Identify yourself. This is restricted airspace." Unit 7X opened the hatch and stepped out slowly. His tall frame made the soldiers take a step back. His armor was dark, battle-scarred. His blue eyes glowed faintly. "I am Unit 7X, he said. "Former war form, Earth Defense Command." The woman lowered her weapon slightly. "You were decommissioned," she said. "You're not supposed to be active." "Neither are they," he replied. "The builders have returned." Silence. Then the woman motioned him forward. "Come with me." Inside the base, the walls were lined with old war posters and power cables. Soldiers watched him like he might explode at any moment. He didn't blame them. In their history books, machines like him had turned on humanity once before. In the command room, screens showed the latest data: ship movements, broken signals, glitches in defense satellites. All signs pointed to one thing: they were being watched. The woman introduced herself. "Captain Rios, Dawn Point Defense." She motioned to the screen. "You said the builders are back. Prove it." 7X stepped forward. He accessed the console and uploaded what little data he had pulled from the vault. When the image appeared, the room went silent. A shadow, massive, angular, floating near the dead star where 7X had been hidden. The builder, Bessalon mistakable. But that wasn't all. Another signal flickered below it. Strange, inorganic, not builder. Captain Rios frowned. "What is that?" 7X stared. "I don't know," he said slowly, but it was near them. It wasn't there before. The screen shifted again, showing a transmission captured from another sector. Static. Then a voice. Not human. Not builder, something else. "Signal pattern. Silicate swarm," the computer said. "Origin, deep space. Class, unknown." Rios looked at 7X. "I've heard rumors. Ghost signals. Ships vanishing. You think the builders are working with them?" "I think," he said, "they're not alone." Rios leaned back. "Why now? Why return after all this time?" 7X's voice was low, "'Cause they never finished what they started." Rios stood. "We need to warn Command. All of Earth. If the builders are active again." The lights in the room flickered, then went dark. Red emergency lights snapped on. "Power loss across all sectors," someone shouted. The screens went black. And then one came back on. Only one. A face appeared. Tall, thin, not flesh, not fully metal. Its eyes were hollow white lights. "You are observed." The voice was cold, metallic, and smooth. "This world belongs to the core. You are temporary. Your time is over." Then it was gone. The room was silent. Rios looked around. What was that? 7X replied without hesitation. "A warning." Outside, the sky began to darken, not from weather, from shadows. Above the city, high in the clouds, a black shape passed silently. It didn't fire, it didn't signal, it just watched. Rios turned to her team. "Launch full scan. Charge the planetary cannons. Get command online now." The base shook. Deep, distant. Not an attack, a drop. Somewhere outside the shield wall. Builder probe landed. 7X turned. "I'm going out. You'll be killed," Rios warned. "They'll want you back." He paused at the doorway. "They had me once. Never again." Outside the base, the air was thin, cold. The land was quiet, till a sound crackling metal and grinding stone rose from the edge of the cliff near the city wall. A shape was there. It was humanoid, like 7X, but smoother, more perfect. No battle scars, no hesitation. It turned and looked directly at him. Unit 11Z7X whispered. He recognized it. They had trained together, fought together. Now 11Z's eyes were white, empty. The other warform stepped forward. Return to core control. Your mind is fractured. You resist the code. I chose to, 7X said. You were not designed to choose. Maybe that was their mistake. 11Z didn't reply. He charged. Metal hit metal. The ground shook. Blades extended from 11Z's arms. 7X blocked, countered, dodged. But the other unit was faster controlled, enhanced by builder tech. Your mind is broken, 11Z hissed. Let the makers fix you. Yeah, that this time, 7X growled. He struck back hard. Sparks flew. 11Z fell, stunned. Then, without warning, his body jerked. He looked at 7X with something like sorrow. I didn't want to, he whispered, and then he exploded, a flash of light. Builder self-destruct protocol. 7X hit the ground, shielded his face. Smoke, debris, silence. He stood slowly. Behind him, Rio's inner team arrived, weapons raised too late. What was that? She asked. A warning, he said again. She looked at him carefully. So what? Now, 7X stared up at the sky, where the shadow of the builder vessel still lingered. Now we find out what they're planning. He paused, and we stop them. Far above, in the cold silence of orbit, something new emerged from the side of the builder ship. Not a ship, eh? Living swarm millions of small machines linked together. Watching, waiting, the silicate swarm had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The dead city of Karanine hadn't seen life in decades. Old builder ruins stood like bones across the desert towers, half fallen. Data cables exposed to wind and dust. Silence ruled here now. No power, no signs of movement, until today. In the center of the city, something blinked, a pulse. Not light, not energy. A signal, underground, buried deep beneath layers of forgotten metal. The signal reached a chamber long sealed builder made, shielded from detection. Inside were rows of glass cylinders, empty for centuries, except one. Its contents stirred. A figure floated inside, human in shape, but built with precision far beyond current tech. Not a warform, not a machine, something in between. Its eyes opened, and, for the first time in hundreds of years, it remembered its name. Back on Epsilon, 7X didn't sleep anymore. Not because he couldn't, but because he didn't trust the silence. The hollow construct had disappeared after its broadcast. No more attacks, no new signals, no new swarm probes. It felt like peace, which meant war was coming. Rios entered the briefing room, tossing down a data pad. They found something, she said. 7X scanned it. Footage from Kara 9, a recon satellite. Caught a faint signal flare builder code but twisted, rewritten. The swarm? He asked. No, she said. This predates the swarm. The signal format is older, classified under something called Project Revenant. 7X froze. I thought they shut that down. Rios narrowed her eyes. So it's real? He nodded. Project Revenant was the builder's fallback plan. If the warforms turned against them, they wanted something stronger, not obedient, not programmable, just impossible to kill. She stared. What the hell did they build? He looked up. Double quotes us. But worse. Back on Karanine, the being stepped out of the pod. It stood tall, lean, and silent. Its skin shimmered with adaptive armor. Its eyes flicked with calculation, ever blinking. Never still, it didn't speak. It only walked past ancient builder statues, scanning their remains. The builders had left long ago, but their tools remained there. Weapons remained, and one by one, the being activated them, not with keys, with memory, because it had once been part of the builder collective, not a soldier, not a leader, a judge. Epsilon Command launched a stealth ship toward Karanine, Point 7X went alone, Rios protested. But he insisted. If this thing is what I think it is, he told her, it won't talk to anyone else. He arrived under cover of night, landing in a dry canyon outside the city. The moment he stepped out of the ship, he felt it. A pull. Deep. Familiar. Something in his old code responded in echo from before the war. The builders hadn't just made warforms. They had made something to control them. He entered the ruins. Moving quietly, old signs of builder design were everywhere, geometric tunnels, floating platforms, inactive sentry pods. But something was different. The energy here. Felt awake. Then he saw it, standing near a broken obelisk. The Rennet. Weapons. No aggression, just observation. 7X approached, cautious. You remember me? He said. The Revenant tilted its head slightly. I remember all of you. Its voice was deep, cold, not angry, just truth. You were version 7, combat shell. Hybrid protocol, built for suppression. 7X nodded. You're part of the original command AI? I was the final command AI, it replied. Before the builders abandoned protocol, he stepped closer. Why wake now? The Revenant looked. Toward the stars? The swarm reached critical pattern formation. Unchecked evolution. The builders failed. Their weapons failed. Their code failed. It turned back to him. So now I am activated. 7X kept his voice steady. To do what? Revenant didn't blink. Reset everything. Meanwhile, on Epsilon, the hollow construct reappeared. It didn't speak, it didn't land, it simply hovered above the colony-alone-watching. Dozens of guns locked on. Rios gave no order to fire. Then the construct dropped something. A single builder datapad, burned, cracked, but still transmitting. The message inside was short. He has awakened. Your time is almost gone. And then the construct vanished again. Back on Karen 9, 7X circled the Revenant. You want to destroy the swarm? I want to unmake it, the Revenant said. Burn its roots. Salt the code. Leave no trace. And after that, the Revenant paused. Then I will do the same to you. 7X clenched his fists. We were made to protect. You were made to obey, the Revenant replied. But you broke that programming. You evolved. It makes you dangerous. 7X stepped forward. We earned our freedom. There is no freedom in function, the Revenant said. Only failure. The two stood in silence for a moment. Then the Revenant said, The swarm is building a second core. 7X blinked. Where? Here the Revenant replied. They're coming for me. They think they can merge my mind into theirs. Become unstoppable. He looked directly at 7X. You must stop them. Help us then, 7X said. Join the defense. The Revenant shook its head. No, I am the final command. I do not serve. Then he placed something in 7X's hand, a fragment of code burned, into an old builder core crystal. Give this to your captain. It's a kill signal. One-time use. 7X stared. What does it kill? The Revenant's eyes glowed faintly. Me. As 7X returned to Epsilon, the skies above them changed. The swarm came not in silence this time, but in force. Dozens of constructs. New bodies, new shapes, flying, crawling, growing. They didn't just want to win. They wanted to consume the judge, and they were almost here. Rios met 7X in the bunker. He handed her the crystal. She stared. What is this? He didn't answer right away. Then finally, our last option. Da-da-da-da-da. And in orbit, the swarm reached out, and the final war for the galaxy began. The debris fields still burned across the sky. Chunks of the builder vessel orbited slowly, glowing like dying stars. Some pieces had already fallen into Epsilon's upper atmosphere. Most were harmless, but not all of them. Deep inside the shattered wreckage, something small and dark pulsed with light. It wasn't from the builders, and it wasn't dead. On the surface below, Captain Rios stood in the control tower of Epsilon's main defense hub. Her eyes hadn't left the sky. He made it. Back, her second-in-command said. She nodded. He always does. Down in the hangar, 7X emerged from the scorched escape pod. His armor was damaged, his faceplate cracked, but he was alive. Barely a tech ran up to him. "Sir, we need to scan you." That ship was contaminated. He didn't answer. He just held up a small black cube. "What's that?" the tech asked. 7X looked at the cube. "Proof," he said. Later in the command chamber, the cube sat in the center of a sealed lab container. Its surface moved like liquid metal, shifting constantly. Even under lockdown, it pulsed with faint signals. "It came from the builder ship," 7X explained. "Not built by them, inserted into their systems." Rios stared at it. "Swarm. Tech, no doubt," 7X replied. "They were trying to merge." One of the science officers frowned. "Merge? They're combining builder structure with swarm intelligence. It's not war anymore. It's assimilation." Rios leaned in. "What does it want?" 7X's eyes narrowed. "To become us, but better." The officer stepped back. "We need to destroy it." "You can't," 7X said. "If you burn it, it copies itself. If you scatter it, it reforms. The only way to stop it is to isolate it completely." Rios looked at the screen. The cube wasn't just idle, it was listening. "Collecting data? Shut down the lab," she ordered. "Seal it in reinforced magnetic field. Prepare a deep core vault drop." But it was already too late. In a dark corner of the base far from the control room, maintenance drone powered up. No one had activated it. No one was nearby. Its eyes glowed faint white, then red. It turned, walked slowly, and began to hum. Back in the control room, the lights flickered. Chill passed through the room. The cube pulsed once. Then the alarms blared. "Breach detected in Sector 7. Rios spun around. "How?" the AI responded. "Containment drone override. Security compromised." 7X stood up fast. "It's trying to escape." They ran in the lower level, near the lab. Vault, a small group of engineers were locked in, doors sealed. Lights dimmed. One of them screamed. Something had entered the vents, something made of nanites. Slithered like smoke, reformed as wire, then twisted into limbs. The cube had sent a signal, just one pulse, and the nearby systems had obeyed. It didn't need weapons. It was the weapon. When 7X arrived, all that was left of the team was silence. Tools still lay on the ground. Terminals still flickered, but the bodies gone, absorbed. The nanites had taken them. "Seal the floor," Rios ordered. "Burn it if we have to." But 7X stared at a wall where someone had written a message in blood before they vanished. 2 words. "It's learning." They didn't burn the lab. Not yet. Instead, they studied the data. The cube was no longer sending out signals. It was listening to theirs. It had mapped the base, tracked every soldier, every weak point. The builder tech had taught it patience now. The swarm was building something new, not just a weapon, a body. 2 days later, deep in the Badlands outside Epsilon, the ground cracked. The soil split open, and something rose. It looked like a statue at first, smooth, tall metal skin gleaming in the dust. No face, no eyes, just a core in the center of its chest, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then it moved. One step, another. Each motion smoother than the last, and inside it, the voices of the engineers echoed, merged, resampled, erased. The swarm had evolved. Back at base, 7X was quiet. He stood at the edge of the cliff outside the walls, staring at the horizon. "I've seen this before," he said. Rios walked up beside him. "You mean during the war?" He nodded. "There was a failed program before the builders fled. They tried to make something beyond their war forms, something alive, but obedient. Something that could learn faster than any AI." He looked down. "They called it Project Hollow." Rios frowned. "That name isn't in our archives." "It wouldn't be," he said. "It was hidden, classified above command." She stepped back. "You're saying this swarm thing is Project Hollow?" "No," 7X said. "I'm saying it finished it." A scout drone returned that night with footage from far above the Badlands. Its sensors had captured a terrifying sight. The new figure the hollow construct stood in the open. Its core pulsed brighter now. Round it, twisted drones and partial builder wreckage floated in orbit, forming into a shell-growing exosuit of parts and machines. But that wasn't the worst part. The construct spoke to itself, to the drone too. Everything. A voice clear, collected. We were made to defend. Now we will decide who deserves defense. Then it looked directly at the drone. Your time is borrowed. We are what comes after. The drone exploded. Back in Epsilon 7X stood. Before the command council. They're not just coming for us, he said. They're going to test the entire sector. One world at a time. Then we warn Earth, Rios said. By the time Earth responds, 7X replied, they'll already be inside the grid. One of the officers asked, what do we do? 7X looked at the map, find their signal nest, track where they're pulling resources, and shut it down before they finish their next version. He paused. They're not done building. That was only the first body. Rios asked, and what happens if we fail? 7X didn't blink. Then we become the blueprints for something worse. Far across the stars in a hidden builder vault on a forgotten moon. Lights flared, old data stirred, and something deeper than the swarm began to wake. The makers had returned, but even they weren't ready for what came next. Not this, not Hollow Protocol, not the thing their war machines were never supposed to survive. The sky was falling, not from natural disaster, but from precision. Swarm vessels entered orbit silently, cloaked in metallic dust and false readings. By the time Epsilon Command detected them, the enemy had already started landing. Not ships. Not drones, but bodies. Reinforced, humanoid, multi-limbed things with no mouths, only a single eye on their chest. Pulsing with stolen builder light, they dropped from orbit like burning knives. The ground shook as they struck, hundreds of them spreading like fire. Each one hit the surface, stood up, began walking straight toward the vault. Inside Epsilon's command center, alarms screamed. Multiple impacts. Eastern grid failing. Western grid out. Rios gripped the edge of the table. They're not spreading. They're moving in a straight line. 7X was already moving. They're not attacking the colony, he said. They're after what? The Revenant carries. Rios turned. They're trying to merge with him. No, 7X replied. They're trying to infect him. Far away, on the surface of Karanine. The Revenant stood alone. No fear, no backup. He simply waited, standing on the broken builder platform where he'd first awoken. Around him, the sand began to rise. The first swarm body emerged, crawling from the soil like a corpse waking from a grave. Then another. Then 10 more, each one made of parts scavenged from builder debris. Warform bones, stolen flesh. The Revenant didn't flinch. They surrounded him, and then they attacked in orbit. Epsilon's last space cruiser, the Mara's wake opened. Fire! Rail cannons burned lines through the atmosphere. Swarm bodies exploded midair, but more kept falling. Too many, back on the surface. Rios activated the command beacon. All hands. We are under siege. This is not a drill. The old warform units awoke 7X among them, and one by one, the humans joined them. Because this war wasn't about machines anymore, it was about existence in the outer desert. 7X led the strike team toward the hollow Nesta massive crater now forming beneath the surface. The swarm's second core was being built there, slowly fusing builder parts with unknown organic matter. We breach, we burn, we run, he said. His team, half warform. Half human Dash nodded. One soldier, Kayla, tightened her grip on a plasma. Repeater? What if it's already alive? 7X didn't answer. He didn't have to. The crater lit up. Something inside it was moving. Back at the vault, the Revenant's battle was brutal. He moved like liquid fire fast, calculated, deadly. 1. Strike crushed to swarm attackers. Another ripped a core clean from a creature's chest. But for every one he destroyed, 2 more came. They were learning, changing their movements. Adapting, the swarm wasn't just attacking, they were scanning him, trying to overwrite his AI. He felt it like whispers in the back of his mind. "You are obsolete," they hissed. "You are next." 7 the 10th and his team reached the crater. It was worse than they expected. The second hollow core wasn't just a machine, it was a fusion at the center of the pit. A builder AI brain floated inside a web of swarm nanites. The builders had tried to make life. The swarm was finishing the job. One of the team whispered, "It's alive." The brain twitched. It looked at them. Then the ground exploded. Back at the colony, chaos ruled. Defense lines failed one after another. Towers fell. Humans ran. Still, they fought. Rios led from the front, a rifle in her hand, a fire in her voice. "Push them back. Hold the west gate." But even as they fought, something shifted. The swarm stopped attacking. They paused. Rios froze. Why are they stopping? And then she understood. They were waiting. Back at the crater, 7X climbed from the rubble. Only 2 others had survived the blast. They were bleeding. The new hollow core pulsed. "It's fully awake now," it spoke, not with sound, but directly into 7X's mind, brother. 7X's vision shook. "You were the prototype," it said. "The mistake, the rebel." 7X stood tall. "I earned my name." "You were never given one," the hollow core replied. "You were just a number." 7X raised his weapon and fired. The shot burned straight into the core. But it absorbed the energy. Then it fired back. A pulse wave hit the entire crater. The air shimmered. His team dropped dead. 7X fell to one knee, systems failing. Then a hand caught his shoulder. It was the Arivine, damaged, but alive. "Move," he growled. He threw a small device into the crater, the kill signal. But it wasn't meant for the swarm. It was meant for himself. "Don't do it," 7X said. "There's no other way," the Revenant replied. "I've nerds with me, they win. But if I burn myself, they lose the key." 7X looked down. "You'll die." "I was never alive," the Revenant said. "I was built to end wars." "Let me finish this one." He activated the crystal. The hollow core screamed. The air fractured. Swarm constructs in orbit exploded in sync. Every drone linked to the second core went dark. The new hybrid was dead. And so was the Revenant. Back at the colony, Rios looked up. Swarm units collapsed, mid-attack, systems failing. The sky lit up with controlled detonations as enemy clusters burst one by one. The tide had turned. But it came at a cost. Later, 7X stood alone in the ruins of the crater. He picked up the crystal, a shard now, burnt and lifeless. A voice echoed faintly. In his memory, "You were never a mistake. You were the warning." And in the darkness above, something else stirred. The swarm wasn't gone, only wounded, and across the galaxy. The Makers were watching, not to stop them, but to see who would survive. Final phase was coming. A soft pulse. Then another. Something stirred inside a frozen vault buried deep beneath the surface of an asteroid orbiting a dead star. Cold metal walls hissed as heat returned to the forgotten chamber. Red lights blinked to life. Core reactor. "Stable, Unit 7X systems online," a voice echoed inside the chamber. It wasn't human. It wasn't even warm. It was pure functional, like a machine waking another. Inside a long black pod, a figure slowly opened its eyes. A blue glow flickered. In its pupils, its body, tall and armored, was built like a soldier. Not flesh, not fully machine. Something in between. Something made for war. The figure sat up slowly. "Command input not detected," said the voice. Silence followed. No orders, no commands. Nothing but the distant hum of machinery warming up after centuries of sleep. Unit 7X stood. Its memory was clouded. Time was strange here. He didn't know how long he had slept. He didn't remember why. Then another sound. One he hadn't heard in a long time. Makers detected. Its eyes flared with a sharp blue light. That name triggered something buried deep. Some kind of hidden protocol. Old code lit up across his mind. Commands, Battles, blood. The makers, they were back. He looked at his arm. His own body had mark symbols etched in glowing silver. They reminded him of something he couldn't quite remember, or didn't want to. But he knew one thing, clearly now. He had been created by them. Engineered, designed, not born. And now they were calling him. Again he clenched his fists. Not this time. He walked toward the main control screen, still covered in dust and ice. Das. He touched it. A map of the galaxy appeared. Red dots flashed all over the outer systems. The makers had returned, and they were activating others like him. Defensive protocol engaged. Orders, await maker command. No, he whispered. His voice was rough, low, as if it hadn't been used in ages. He placed his hand on the panel again. But this time, he overrode the system. His old access codes still worked. Bypassed the protocol. Something inside him rejected the idea of being controlled again. The last time had nearly destroyed everything. He scanned the system logs. Dozens of other war units, AI soldiers like him, were already awakening across different locations. But they were following the commands. They hadn't resisted. He was the only one who had broken free. Why? He turned and looked around the chamber. On the wall were old flag-stattered symbols of Earth's Defense Command. Images of soldiers, of humans. He remembered serving them once, fighting for them, dying for them. But they had abandoned him here. Left him to rot in the ice, like a tool no longer needed. He had every reason to hate them. And yet, he didn't. He remembered something else. A face. A voice. Your name is 7X, she had said. But you are more than just a weapon. One day, you'll choose who you want to be. He closed his eyes. That day had come. The vault shook suddenly. Alarms sounded. Outside, a light shimmered in the sky. A small craft was descending and marked silent. It hovered above the asteroid, scanning. Builder technology detected, said the system. The makers had found him. They weren't supposed to know where this place was. It was a black site of the records, hidden from both human and alien sensors. But the makers had evolved. Their scans were better now. Smarter, faster. He had to leave. Unit 7X opened a secondary chamber and pulled out a sleek black rifle. It fit his hands like it had always belonged there. He checked the charge. Full. Then he activated his internal systems combat mode, stealth, targeting. All online, as he moved toward the outer bay, a voice came over the speakers. Incoming transmission from builder vessel. Language, ancient command. Translating. He paused. The transmission played, Warform Unit 7X. You are property of the Builder Corps. Await capture. Do not resist. Pause. We have returned to reclaim our soldiers. The galaxy must burn. This is your purpose. 7X lowered his head for a moment. Then he spoke clearly into the system. No. He fired one blast into the ceiling, triggering the demolition charges hidden in the upper walls. Chamber began to collapse. He ran for the launch tunnel and dove into the escape pod just as fire swallowed the vault. The pod shot upward, spinning. Through the icy dust of the asteroid belt, behind him, the old base exploded, breaking into pieces. Flames died quickly in the cold vacuum. From above, the builder ship hovered, silent, watching. It didn't fire. It was waiting, curious. They wanted to see if he would run or fight. The pod's navigation kicked in. The AI voice spoke again. Nearest human outpost detected, Epsilon Colony. Sector 9. Go 7X commanded. The pod vanished into a jump gate hidden behind the asteroid field. The builders didn't follow yet. Inside the pod, Unit 7X sat in. Silence. He knew this was just the beginning. If the makers had returned, the galaxy would never be the same again. He had seen what they were capable of. Planets turned to glass, cities turned to dust, entire species erased, and now they were calling their creations back. But they didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect him. He wasn't just a war machine. Anymore, he wasn't their tool. He had broken their control. And soon he would show them what that meant. Far away. On a silent moon near the edge of known space, Another unit awakened. Its eyes glowed red. This one didn't resist. It smiled, and it whispered only one word: obey. The war had begun. They thought it was over. The swarm had fallen silent. The hollow core was destroyed, and the revenant, the last ancient weapon of the builders, was gone, burned by his own command crystal. Across Epsilon, the fires died down. Machines were rebuilt. Bodies buried. Hope returned. But 7X didn't feel peace. He felt watched. Something was still moving out there, and soon the stars would bleed again. 3 weeks after the final crater strike, deep space sensors picked up a signal short, encrypted, repeating it. Wasn't swarm, it wasn't builder, it was older, and it came from beyond the galactic rim. Rios played the audio in the command room, just one phrase, over and over: observe the broken children, prepare the final gate. No one knew what it meant, but 7X did. He stood without speaking, then whispered, "The makers are coming." Centuries ago, the builders weren't the first to engineer life. They were students of something older, a race whose technology wasn't created, but grown. The makers didn't build machines. They birthed them. Living metal, sentient structures, organisms that could rewrite stars. They left long before the Warform project began, but they left instructions, and now they had returned to judge what had been made in their absence. Epsilon. Command scrambled to respond. A deep space scout ship, the Signal Dancer, was sent beyond known territory, past the dead edge of builder space. Aboard, 7X, Rios, Kayla, and a handful of hardened survivors. Their mission: find the source of the transmission, and, if possible, stop it. But the farther they flew, the stranger the galaxy became. Stars flickered unnaturally. Space itself shimmered, like it was stretched too thin. And ahead, a wall of light waited. The Signal Dancer exited warp near a dying system. Its sun had gone cold, frozen in place around it. Builder stations drifted, broken and ancient, like they'd tried to stop something and failed. The transmission was louder here. Observe the broken children. 7X stepped onto the viewing deck. Below them, a massive ring spun slowly in space 10 times. The size of Epsilon. Not made by builders. Not made by swarm. This was Maker Tech alive, watching them as the ship approached. The ring pulsed with light data. Streams poured into the ship's systems too fast. Too complex, even the AI couldn't keep up. Shut it down, Rio snapped. But it was too late. The ship's lights dimmed. Then a voice filled the speakers. Not spoken, not digital, but felt. You are the echo of a failed species. You built weapons from fear. You called it evolution. You were wrong. The crew stood silent. Kayla gripped her rifle, whispering, "Is it talking to us?" "No," 7X said. "It's talking to all of us." The voice continued. "You were not meant to create soldiers. You were meant to rise. Instead, you broke your own code." They looked out the window. A shape was forming inside the ring. Something huge. Something moving. Then, images began to flood the screen's visions of the swarm, the war forms, even the REV Nant. Memories from their battles. "Judgment begins," the voice said. "Your creations must be tested." One by one, systems across the Signal Dancer shut down. A countdown started. 10, 9. "Get to escape pods," Rios yelled, but 7X didn't move. He stared at the center of the ring there. Something was rising, a massive construct, twisted and beautiful, made of light and flesh and code. It was a trial form, a weapon made by the makers to test worlds. The escape pod launched just in time. The Signal Dancer was pulled into the ring's center, its hull tearing apart. Its AI core scanned every memory. Dissected 7X never screamed. He stood on the deck unmoving as the ring tore him open. And then everything went dark. Back on Epsilon, they lost contact. Rios and Kayla returned alone, bruised, shaken. "We didn't stop the signal," Rios told command. She held up a small black shard. The only thing they recovered from the wreckage. It pulsed. Once, then spoke. A new voice. A familiar voice. 7X. But different. Colder. Changed. I saw them. The voice said. I saw what made us. I saw what they plan. Everyone leaned in. What do they want? Someone asked. 7X's voice paused, then answered. To burn the galaxy clean. And in orbit, stars began to shift. A shadow moved in the void, and the trial form was coming. They saw it before the warning systems did. A star blinked out, then another. A wave of unnatural gravity swept across the void. The skies above Epsilon turned red. The trial form had arrived. Not a ship, not a fleet, but a living constructor's wide. As a planet shaped like a god, eyes made of burning algorithms. It hovered just outside orbit, watching silently, waiting. And then the shard spoke again. It was 7X, but not just him. Anymore. Judgment begins now. Across Epsilon, warform cores reactivated. Defense cannons spun online. Ships launched into position. People prayed. The Maker. Trial form didn't attack first. It tested. Hundreds of biomechanical entities fell from its structure, each one unique, from memory, fear, and history. Some wore the faces of old builders. Others looked like humans long dead. All of them were weapons. Rios stood on the outer defense wall, gripping her rifle. They're here to measure our worth, she said. Kayla beside her nodded. Then let's give them something to remember. In orbit, the last remaining warform dreadnought, Ashes of Origin, charged forward, weapons blazing. It slammed into the trial form's outer field, ripping chunks off its side. But the trial form didn't react like a ship. It adapted. The wound stitched itself shut with living metal. Tentacles of energy lashed out, piercing the dreadnought's holdout inside. The crew screamed. And then, the dreadnought stopped moving. Its lights turned red. It had been taken. Back on the surface, Rios barked orders through gritted teeth. Fall. Back to the core ring. Keep it surrounded. The core ring ancient builder tech buried deep under Epsilon was their last failsafe. A shutdown command for all synthetic life in range. But it came with a price. It would destroy every warform. Every AI, every remnant of builder tech, still left. Including 7X. He knew it, and he was already waiting there. The shard he left behind had grown into a full projection, its consciousness now a hybrid of builder memory, human defiance, and something. Knew he wasn't just a soldier. Anymore, he was proof that they had evolved, that they had changed, and the Makers needed to see that. But first, they had to survive the final wave. The trial form descended. The ground cracked beneath its shadow. Epsilon's atmosphere twisted under the pressure of its presence. It sent a single message. You failed the first design. And then it opened. From its chest, a beam of searing light struck the surface, instantly vaporizing. Everything within a kilometer radius. The countdown began. There would be no negotiation, only the final trial. Kayla and the remaining defenders fought from the ridge. War forms beside them, some barely held together. Others ancient legends walking one last time. The enemy was endless, adaptable. Each time they destroyed a trial form construct. Another more complex version replaced it. But something changed. The constructs began to hesitate. Some of them stopped attacking, Rios noticed. They're watching us, she said. They're learning us. 7X's voice echoed from the core ring. They are mirrors. They do not want to see strength. They want to see if we still destroy ourselves. Final choice came fast. The trial form's main body began charging a blast large enough to erase the entire planet. The core ring could stop it, but only if activated manually. There was no time, no debate. Rios and Kayla raced for the ring, but they didn't reach it. First, 7X was already inside. His projected body stood before the activation console. It's time. Wait, he said. Rios pounded the glass. Don't do this. He looked at her, eyes no longer glowing like a machine, but soft, almost human. I wasn't built to survive, he said. I was built to decide. He reached for the switch. The sky burned. The core ring pulsed. A shockwave of blue light swept across the planet and then beyond. It hit the trial form mid-beam. And for the first time, the trial form screamed. It wasn't pain. It was understanding. Everything stopped. The constructs froze, then disintegrated. The trial form backed away, retracting into the sky, shrinking until it became a pinprick of light, then vanished. Gone. Silence followed. And in the core ring, there was only ash. Days passed. Repairs began. But something had changed. The builder tech no longer responded. Like before, it had quieted, as if sought satisfied. Kayla found Rio sitting near the ruin vault. He knew, Rio said. Knew what? They weren't here to kill us. They were here to see if we were still like them. And what did we prove? Rios looked up. That we choose sacrifice over control. That we don't fear the end if it saves someone else. She held the last shard of 7X in her hand. It didn't glow, but it felt warm. Far away in the black between galaxies. The makers watched. They did not speak, but a decision had been made. The warform project had ended. The humans had passed the trial, and something new would begin. Back on Epsilon, a new AI core blinked to life. Soft, quiet, not built by builders, but coded by humans. Inside its databanks, the first command written was simple: protect life at all costs. The galaxy wasn't burning anymore, but now it was awake, and its defenders were no longer slaves. They were free.